Who were the Black Panthers? Why do so many Americans still not fully understand why the FBI launched a secret program called COINTELPRO to destroy them? How did the FBI plant informants inside the party? And if the Black Panthers weren't destroyed because they hated America, then what really happened? And what was their mission in the first place? We'll explain all of this in the next few minutes, along with other shocking facts you never expected. This story is not fiction or speculation. Every detail is verified and was gathered from Britannica.com and other credible sources. A quick shout out to them. The link to the full article will be in the description. April 1st, 1967, North Richmond, California. It's just after 5 a.m. Neighbors hear 10 gunshots break the silence. When the noise fades, a man named Denzel Dowell is lying in the street. He's been shot in the back and the head. Police are already on the scene, but something feels wrong immediately. No ambulance is called, no urgency, no attempt to save a life. Police claim Denzel was robbing a liquor store. They say he ran. They say he jumped fences, but the family knows that story doesn't make sense. Denzel had a bad hip. He walked with a limp. He couldn't run. He couldn't jump fences. Later, a doctor tells the family something chilling. Based on the bullet wounds, it looks like Denzel may have been shot with his hands raised. Still, a white jury quickly rules the killing justifiable homicide. No charges, no punishment. Just another black life erased and explained away. But this time, something different happens. Instead of staying silent, the community pushes back. They investigate, they question the police story, they demand answers. And standing beside them are young black activists who refuse to let this death disappear. That investigation becomes one of the first major organizing efforts of a group that most people today only recognize from distorted images and fear-driven headlines. That group is the Black Panther Party. To understand who the Black Panthers really were, you have to forget the caricature you've been shown. The Black Panther Party was founded in 1966 in Oakland, California by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale. They were not criminals. They were not thugs. They were students, readers, thinkers, people who studied law, politics, and history because they were tired of watching their communities suffer while being told to wait patiently for change. At the time, black neighborhoods were trapped in poverty, unemployment, poor housing, and constant police violence. Civil rights laws had been passed, but real life hadn't changed. Beatings still happened, shootings still happened, and justice almost never followed. The Panthers started with one clear goal: protect black communities from police brutality. They did something radical, but legal. They studied California law and learned that open carry was allowed. So they carried guns not to attack, but to observe. They followed patrols. They stood at a legal distance. They watched arrests. They quoted the law out loud. And suddenly, for the first time, police officers were being watched the same way black communities had always been watched. That alone made the Panthers a threat. But what really made them dangerous wasn't their guns, it was their ideas. The Panthers created a 10-point program that laid out what they believed people deserved: jobs, decent housing, healthcare, education that told the truth, and an end to police brutality. But underneath all of that was a deeper belief, one that almost never makes it into textbooks. The Panthers believed racism wasn't just about hate. They believed it was tied to capitalism. They believed black suffering was profitable, and they said openly that you couldn't fix racism without fixing the system that benefited from it. This is where another major lie enters the story. You've probably heard that the Black Panthers were anti-white or racist themselves. So was it true that they were really racist? Let me explain. But before I continue, we are very low on subscribers and likes. Please support this channel by subscribing and clicking the like button. Please, just like and subscribe now. Alright, let's continue. The Black Panthers were not racist. The Panthers made a clear distinction between racist people and non-racist people. They worked with poor white communities, Latino groups, Native American activists, and anti-war organizers. In Chicago, Panther leader Harry Fred Hampton formed the Rainbow Coalition, uniting Black Panthers with the Young Lords and the Young Patriots, groups made up of Puerto Rican activists and poor white migrants. Hampton said something that still hits hard today: you don't fight racism with racism, you fight racism with solidarity. That message terrified those in power far more than any weapon. While the media focused on guns, something else was happening quietly. The Black Panthers were feeding children. Every morning, before school, they served free breakfasts to kids who would otherwise go hungry. They ran health clinics, they tested people for tuberculosis, they offered legal aid, they provided transportation, they created liberation schools to teach Black history and political education because they believed knowledge was a form of defense. These weren't side projects, they were central to the Panther mission. And here's something most people don't know. The US government later adopted the Panthers' free breakfast model nationwide. The idea was copied, the credit was erased. As the Panthers grew, so did the fear around them. By the late 1960s, membership had spread across the country and even internationally. Chapters existed in dozens of US cities and support groups formed overseas. To some, they represented hope. To the federal government, they represented something else entirely. In 1969, FBI Director Edgar Hoover declared the Black Panther Party the greatest threat to internal security in the United States. Not foreign enemies, not extremist hate groups, a Black community organization. What happened next is the part many Americans still don't fully grasp. The FBI launched a secret program called COINTELPRO to destroy them. The FBI planted informants inside the party. They sent fake letters to create paranoia and internal conflict. They spread lies to the press. They coordinated with local police. They provoked violence. Leaders were arrested on weak or fabricated charges. Some Panthers spent years in prison before cases fell apart. Others never made it out alive. In Chicago, police raided an apartment where Fred Hampton was sleeping. He had been drugged. He never woke up. He was shot and killed in his bed. At least 30 Panthers were killed nationwide. Hundreds were jailed. Many more were psychologically damaged. Years later, when COINTELPRO was exposed, the FBI admitted it had engaged in wrongful abuses of power. But by then, the Black Panther Party as a national force had been crushed. And yet, even in decline, their impact didn't disappear. Their ideas influenced movements across the world, from Australia to India to Africa. Their language lived on in music and culture. Their community programs left permanent marks on public policy. And their story remains uncomfortable because it forces a question many people still avoid. What happens when oppressed communities organize effectively? What happens when they feed their own children, educate themselves, and build multiracial coalitions? And why does that seem to trigger more fear than violence ever did? The truth is, the Black Panthers weren't destroyed because they hated America. They were destroyed because they exposed contradictions America didn't want to face. They showed that police brutality wasn't accidental, that poverty wasn't natural, that racism wasn't just personal prejudice, but structural design. And most dangerously of all, they showed that ordinary people could organize, learn the law, and demand more. The story of Denzel Dowell feels familiar today for a reason. The names change, the decades pass, but the patterns repeat. And that's why this history matters, because once you understand who the Black Panthers really were and why they existed, you start seeing modern headlines differently. You start questioning which movements are labeled dangerous. You start noticing which stories are taught and which ones are quietly skipped. And here's the insane truth I promised earlier. The government didn't just admit it went too far. It apologized, years later, for abusing its power against the Black Panthers. But apologies don't bring back the dead, they don't erase prison time, and they don't undo decades of distorted history. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We want to hear what you think. Do not forget to subscribe and like this video, and check our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.